Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, August 13th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 78, Combat. There will be some spoilers ahead. I'm TJ.
I'm Matt.
I'm Bryce.
What do we have for y'all today? Matt is going to be going over two boxing events. We have, first and foremost, Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius, and then we have the top-ranked boxing event of Navarrete versus Valdez. And of course, as a crew, we're going to go over UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. Without further ado, Matt, take it away.
All right. So I'm going to start off with Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius. This was, I won't say a controversial fight, but this definitely was not the fight that it was initially scheduled to be. Anthony Joshua initially was scheduled to fight Dillian White, and Dillian White's drug test came back with some adverse findings, and they were able to get Robert Helenius, they were able to get Robert Helenius as a last-minute replacement to step up and fight Anthony Joshua. Robert Helenius is a Finnish professional boxer. Obviously heavyweight, really big dude, 6'6.5", just about looking eye to eye with Anthony Joshua. He also shares a few common opponents with him, one of which being Dillian White, whom he fought back in 2017. He also was coming back off of a TKO victory after taking a loss in October of 2022 to Deontay Wilder in the first round. He also is a former sparring partner of Deontay Wilder, so they have a little bit of a history, which also helped play up, I would imagine, his being called for this fight as a fight with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder is still somewhere supposed to be down the pipeline. At any rate, Joshua, former world heavyweight champion, and he was, pretty much been looking to just get himself back in the win column, but get himself back in also a more positive headspace and a more positive mind as far as boxing and stuff is concerned. He is actually coming off of a unanimous decision victory over Jermaine Franklin that he had back in April of this year, 2023. And pretty much is looking to just get himself back in contention for a title or at least for another big fight. And this was the first step to that. He, like I said, was fighting Robert Helenius. He recently has joined up with Derek James's camp. Derek James's camp is infamous for also having the Charlo brothers and Errol Spence Jr., as well as very recently Ryan Garcia. So, if I'm not mistaken, this was his first fight with Derek James. And to be honest with you, he looked pretty good. Definitely was a little, I won't say unsure, but, when you spend a training camp training for one guy and then you get another guy on, in less than 2 weeks notice, there's not a ton of time to prepare specifically for that opponent. And there was a little bit of a feeling out period, and, don't let it be, obviously they're heavyweights, right? So there's no pity pat guy at heavyweight, especially not a guy that's 6'6", over 200 pounds, and has, been in boxing since 2008. Like, this guy hits you, it's gonna hurt. Like, that shit is not gonna tickle. And true enough, he was able to bust Joshua's nose up a little bit with some jabs throughout the fight. But I think the real story of this fight was Anthony Joshua's right hand, and him setting it up and eventually getting a little more comfortable letting it go, which is ultimately what set him up for victory. It was in the seventh round. Joshua was starting to have a little bit more success, landing a few more of his punches. They were trading jabs for a while. It was kind of like who's going to get their head off the line, type of situation. But eventually, he was able to do that. And what Anthony Joshua did was a jab to the head, jab to the body. Once he had Robert Helenius kind of leaning back on the ropes, and just blasted a huge overhand right that puts Robert Helenius out instantly, turning him around, in fact, when he got hit by it, stopped a mid punch. And that was pretty much the story of that fight. 7 rounds in, Anthony Joshua was able to get a good stoppage after not being able to stop Jermaine Franklin, who's, truth be told, a very different style of a fighter, but still, there's a lot to not necessarily a lot that can be said, but a lot to be said is about stylistic matchups and, you know, how guys perform with one person versus how they perform with another one. But it was good to see Anthony Joshua get back in the wins, get another win. Excuse me. Hopefully, this sets up another bigger fight for him down the pipeline. After that, the other major fight that we had going on was, can you pronounce the name for me one more time, TJ?
Navarrete.
Navarrete versus Valdez. Now, this fight was nuts. Let me just say that before I even go any further into it. This fight was insane. You want to talk about just two Mexican warriors literally going to war. Like, these guys, Oscar Valdez is the former super featherweight champion. He took his first professional loss to Shakur Stevenson back in 2022. Bounced back, was able to pick up a unanimous decision victory over Adam Lopez earlier this year in May. And he was looking to pick up the WBO super featherweight title that had been vacated recently. And he had to go up against Emmanuel Navarrete. How do you say it again? Navarrete. This guy is... Here's the thing. I'll say this, right? Like, when you run into these... Now, I won't necessarily call him younger, but when you run into some of these guys, I mean, I guess he is younger, right? That have these very deep Mexican backgrounds prior to getting to America, like, and I'm not saying anything offensive here. You got to be kind of iffy about those records because a lot of these records aren't always accurate just because of the transition from country to country and things like that. There are plenty of European fighters that have more fights than what is recognized by like American boxing federations and things like that. But this is another dude who pretty much on paper is built from the same stuff Oscar Valdez is. Emmanuel Navarrete is 28 years old, right? And this was his 39th fight as a professional. This is 39th fight. Oscar Valdez is 32, and this was his this is his 33rd fight. But these are guys who would just work. At any rate, there was a little bit of a size differential here that definitely played a factor. Oscar Valdez being one of the smaller super featherweights, coming in at 5'5", and Navarrete being 5'7". And to be honest with you, it looked like he was about 5'9" standing in there with him. Just in terms of once guys are kind of getting their stance and things like that. TJ, you know what I mean by stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this fight, man, from round 1 to round 12, it was just volume punching. The difference was, I think Navarrete was busier, whereas Valdez was stronger. Valdez threw bigger shots, landed bigger shots, but he got hit way more. Like, this fight is being called by a lot of people. I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of energy, but it's being called an instant classic. It's being called like an all-time Mexican war. And to be honest with you, it kind of was, you know. But when you see the results after the fight, when you see what both guys look like, it doesn't look like both guys went through that war. Unfortunately, it looks like Oscar Valdez was the only one that went through it, just because he kept eating a lot of right hands to the point that it virtually shut his eye. And Valdez was letting off hooks to the body, hooks to the head, you know. But I think the volume overall for Navarrete was just too much. I mean, listen, over the course of those 12 rounds, he threw over 1,000 punches. Oscar Valdez threw just under 500. Navarrete threw 1,038 punches over the course of that fight. Volume the whole time. And it just ultimately became a situation where Oscar Valdez was just simply, he was outgunned. He was just outgunned. But man, if you guys get a chance to see this fight, you just want to see an all action fight. You want to see guys that are just going to go to work straight for 12 rounds for this WBO title. Like, you wanted, like, the definition of leaving it all in the ring. That was this fight. That was his fight. I don't have a lot that I can really add to it past that. Like, there was no one thing other than, that worked more than another, other than, like I said, Navarrete's getting that right hand off. It was just, he just was feeding that shit to Oscar, man. Kind of sucked to see, I mean, you hate to see a guy like just kind of keep getting jammed with the same shit, but that pretty much was the issue there. I mean, he just kept getting creamed with that fucking right hand, and I think ultimately that just played a big role in it. And plus, I think this guy was a little bit stronger than Oscar Valdez was may have been planning for. But that will conclude the boxing section for this week, fellas. I'm gonna pass it to y'all so we can jump into this MMA.
All right, UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. I can open this up at middleweight. We had Josh Fremd versus Jamie Pickett. I heard you. And I remember.
I'm sorry, Khalil.
I heard you. Now remember this. No. It was just 3 rounds of Fremd just shutting down Pickett's striking ability. They knew Pickett had the hands. Fremd was doing a good job of hemming him up against the fence and kind of neutralizing his ability to strike. And Pickett just had no answer for Fremd's grappling. It ended up being,
you are really underselling that pinning him up on the fence.
I agree with Matt, like pin him on the fence. I will say that Pickett did something really stupid. I want to say in the third or second. What?
He got taken down again?
No, he took him down. It's like, fam.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Fuck, did you go for the takedown?
Right.
It's like I understand, like maybe he was trying to like ground and pound him, but the moment.
Well, he couldn't even really get the ground and pound off because Fremd was just shutting it down.
Yeah, but like Fred, like when Pickett got the takedown, Fremd kind of held him in a way to like bring him down with him, and then Fremd just took over from there. And I'm just like, man, you basically gave him that.
It was your only chance
your only chance was on the feet.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that was the opener for the main card, and it wasn't. It kind of set the tone. Like, I don't want to say that this main card was mid because the prelims were cooking. There were 2 standout fights in this main card, but
you called that a fight, huh? Yeah, I mean, I guess it was. He got some shots off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
but for the most part, this was mostly decisions in the main card. But that was all my thoughts on Fremd versus Pickett. I didn't really have much to add. And Bryce, you kind of took over a little bit. Do you have anything you wanted to say?
No, that was it. Like, that's just that one that I just remember that part just standing out to me because his coaches was like, yeah, man, just stand with him. And then like you kind of get a little going and then you go for the takedown. It's like, okay. Right. That's it.
Like he kind of showed you can't out grapple him, dog.
Yeah.
He's been showing you that. You probably just should leave that alone.
Right.
He said, nah, I gotta prove myself.
I mean, it also depends on like what he was training on in camp. Like, it's hard to deviate from whatever the game plan was mid-fight. So if he was just training like grappling and takedowns and like, it's like, yeah, I can do it. And he's just gonna go on autopilot because like you should be improvising on your feet, but even your improvisation depends on like how much you trained beforehand, right? Or how many scenarios you trained beforehand. So, yeah, that's all I was gonna say. Matt, did you have any additional thoughts on this one?
The more and more, especially when we break this down, man, I'm just gonna, as a striker myself, I'm just gonna say, grappling, man, is so fucking important. God damn, it's really, really important. Like it has been the difference maker in more of these fights that we have talked about than it has not been. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know. TJ said he had him pinned up on the fence. It was like, shit, he might as well have been going through his locker and taking his fucking lunch money too. Because when he had him pinned up on that fence, he wasn't getting off of there, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he just wasn't going anywhere. He couldn't. So, but that was all.
So
what we got next up?
Oh yeah. Middleweight fight. AJ Dobson versus Tafon Chukwi. And honestly, it kind of goes this kind of like what Matt was talking about earlier about grappling. That's what comes to mind when I think about this fight. it was a win on AJ Dobson's part. AJ
Mm-hmm.
pretty much outstruck, just outdid Chukwi. And the thing
MMA.
Chukwi could have did to help was well shit, AJ got the takedowns too.
Also,
It was
been on
just
weight, but that's
yeah.
neither here nor there.
Chukwi, I'm surprised they didn't give it to him. I feel like Chukwi got a takedown at the end of the first round, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It was a
AJ,
29-28, so they gave him at least one round, if I recall
yeah,
correctly.
I thought I thought they gave him the third, really. Because AJ was popping off them kicks in the first round, and Chukwi did get him to the ground in the last part, but I felt like, that really didn't do much for that round. And then in the second, it's like everything Chukwi threw, AJ just started getting his rhythm and just counter striking him. And by the third round, I think it was AJ that did get the takedown, but it seemed like Chukwi took over from there. Am I wrong? Chukwi
Mm-hmm.
was completely on top of AJ in that third round, so that one was definitely his. But
There you
yeah,
go.
this was a like just Chukwi had nothing for AJ. AJ was just very patient. He got down Chukwi's rhythms and what he was trying to do, and he had a good countermeasure for it. I don't know what Chukwi could have did, but in what Matt was talking about, maybe if Chukwi was good with the takedowns, I mean, you got on top of him and you were on top. So maybe that could have been the way you go about it, but also, maybe he didn't train at this camp. So, good win on AJ's part. Good on the stand up. Chukwi looked clean. He looked good. He looked the kicks and everything were crisp. It's just AJ had his number. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that fight. I'll pass it to TJ.
Yeah, he probably looked 3 pounds better. No, but so here lies my dilemma because Nchukwi is Cameroonian, born in Cameroon, moved to the U.S. when he was like about
First
9 years
Cameroonian
old.
ever in the UFC.
That was disrespectful as hell to Francis Ngannou. But as one of my countrymen, I was rooting for him. But then come to find out, he's like 3 pounds overweight. So that's like not professional, right? And then add on to the fact that he's been gone for over a year. So it's like, how you ain't make weight and you've been gone for over a year? But it's what it is, right? But despite the performance he gave in the first few rounds, especially with the leg kicks and some of the striking, none of his strikes other than leg kicks actually connected. Dobson's defense was on point, and his accuracy was a little bit better. He was definitely the sniper in this matchup. So I don't know. It was not a great showing for Nchukwi. And I see and agree with Dobson getting the unanimous decision win. That's all I had on it, in all honesty. Matt, what'd you think?
No, I felt like y'all had it. I wish I was having a trouble finding more information on AJ Dobson just on my own, kind of just looking into him, because his striking looked pretty clean. Like he had like a bit of a like he was a guy with a kickboxing background, but he is just like a really, really well-rounded fighter. That ultimately was what I discovered. He's just super well-rounded. Like even his amateur career is a mixture of submissions and TKOs. So well, let's go into our next one. We had a women's strawweight bout, Poliana Viana versus Yasmin Lucindo. This was at women's strawweight. Yeah, women's strawweight. Gonna say something here. Grappling. It plays another factor yet again. There wasn't a ton of strikes thrown in this fight. This fight only ends up going 2 rounds. Poliana Viana pretty much was looking to stop the train that is Yasmin Lucindo. I don't know. I felt like this was just another case where we need, more people need to, not necessarily, I don't want to say more people need to worry about their grappling, because who says that, these people aren't focused on it. I don't want to say that.
Well, here's the thing, though. Viana is known for her grappling.
Yeah, she's known for that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's the one who went viral for stopping a thief who tried to steal something from her.
That is her.
With a mount position or some of the other two. Like, she's known for her grappling.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was an all Brazilian affair.
Brazil on Brazil crime.
Yeah, this was a Brazil on Brazil crime. I'm not gonna hold y'all. Um, but oof, boy, this was it seemed like, see, I didn't even know that going into this fight, and it definitely didn't seem like it. But I think that also was a strength difference that played a role in their match as well. Like as far as the jujitsu and stuff is concerned, I mean, you can speak more to that, TJ. Like, if you might be on a similar skill level with a guy in jujitsu, but if they're stronger than you, in what way do you really feel like that? Like, how does that really kind of affect the game?
Right. First of all, let's just make one thing clear. Strength is the ultimate technique. Get that out the way. Forget everything else you learned. Strength. That's where it's at. People be like, just stand up, or people be like, use a hip escape, use a shrimp, use this, that. No, bro, just stand up. Strength. Bench press them off of you. Strength will never fail you. You can
Yeah,
fail
cool.
strength, but it's not the other way around. Kidding, of course. No, I think for the most part, jujitsu wise, they were kind of technically equal. If you don't look at the second round, if you don't look at the second round, you just look at the first one. I think they were matched up pretty evenly on the strength tip, even on the jiu-jitsu tip. Because remember, it was Lucindo who was on her back for the most part toward the tail
In
end
that
of that
first
first
one.
round, if I recall
Mm-hmm.
correctly.
You do.
There were some hints that okay, maybe Lucindo's a little bit stronger than Viana thought, because Viana was having trouble initiating the Uchimata throw on Lucindo in that first round because she was trying to get it, but I think Lucindo did a good job of using the whizzer with her arm to stop Viana from successfully getting her to the ground, right? And I was like, all right, just switch over to a mat return. And Lucindo was like, wait, I kind of trained this as well. But yeah, but then the second round happened and the script completely flipped. I'm gonna go back to you, Matt. Go ahead.
The second round happens. Lucindo is able to get on top.
But
And
before she got on top, what did she do?
she's able to get on top. And we're just gonna say that somebody was harmed in the process of gaining this top position that resulted in her having side control that turned into
3/4
uh,
mount.
a 3/4 mount, which turned into a
Nap
mount,
time.
which turned into the arm triangle, and her shooting her hips out completely on the side and choking this girl out. TJ, please explain this transition because it was beautiful.
Basically she was kind of stuck in half guard for a little bit, in a position where she had to kind of keep her knee inside of Viana's half guard to prevent Viana from potentially securing a closed guard and so on and so forth. So as she was stuck in that half guard, she essentially was able to shift her knee and her hip over onto that one side, where over onto the opposite side of where she was getting pinned down by the half guard, which could allow her knee to make contact and eventually allow her to free her leg to get into 3/4 mount and then full mount. Now, as she was doing that, she was also doing a good job of securing Viana's head and arm on the other side of her head and the other side of her arm. So really, it was just a matter of time before she got that head and arm choke. Now, what made this kind of insane and beautiful at the same time was that by the time she even dropped her hips to the ground, that shit already looked very tight, like super tight. So by her kind of jumping her hips over and dropping it to the ground, it allows for that gap where Viana's neck is to completely close and create a very strong noose. So she drops her hips to the ground, and then it's just we play the waiting game. Either you tap or you say hi to your ancestors. It's up to you. What do you want to do, Viana?
Oh
And
my
Viana was
God.
like, you know what? I think I still got some fights left in me. Let me go ahead and tap right quick. That's what happened.
Well, that's what happened. Bryce, did you have anything you want to add?
I just want to add, before I started this fight, I saw TJ was talking about the fights beforehand. Um, I went in, just knowing who was gonna win. Um, I saw Pollyanna. They have the segment where they have the fighters kind of shadow box with the camera in front of them. And I was like, oh, okay. Polyana's about to fight. You know, we about to see some jujitsu. And then I saw Lucindo. And like when she was doing it, I felt the wind from hers like touch my face. And from further inspection, I noticed she had a butterfly tattooed in the front of her neck.
Right on the throat.
Right on the throat.
That's a red flag.
And I just knew how this fight. I knew how the fight was gonna go. But I knew how the fight was gonna go as soon as I saw
I feel you.
I knew how the fight was gonna go, but I knew how the fight was gonna go. But somehow that made sense.
Yeah.
Somehow I understood what he meant by that.
Polyana was not gonna stop this train. I don't know where they found this problem, but she is on her way.
Where they found this problem.
She is on her way, boy. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Yeah, that's all I got there. Y'all touched on it beautifully.
The other thing I'd like to add is before they did end up in that position where Lucindo got the finish, Lucindo also rocked her on her feet with the right hand.
Shit out of her.
Like put her on spaghetti legs for 2 seconds, but she remained composed, didn't jump on it, did her thing, and showed quite a bit of maturity. I think it's her first submission win in the octagon, the UFC. That is. She's gotten a few. I want to say she's gotten a few other submission wins, but this was the first one in the UFC for her.
She rocked the ass twice.
Mm-hmm.
She rocked the ass twice. I was like, yeah, we made it.
Well, our next one that we got
with extreme caution. Yes.
With extreme caution. And I'm going to say his name very respectfully, Mr. Khalil Roundtree Jr.
Respectfully,
Mr. Khalil Roundtree Jr. Had a bout in MMA against a gentleman named Christopher Dawkins.
Government
names. Name, because I don't think Christopher knows himself anymore. He probably got to rename himself.
I'm gonna let TJ take this one.
Really? Oh, I got scared. Hold on, wait. As my comrade Matthew alluded to, we did have a bout at light heavyweight with Mr. Professor, His Highness, Khalil Roundtree Jr. Versus the gentleman Christopher Dawkins. Now, what's interesting to note with Mr. Dawkins is he had transitioned down a weight class. He was originally in heavyweight, and this was him making his, I believe some would dub it, unfortunate debut at light heavyweight. I think the misfortune is in the fact that he had to face His Royal Highness Khalil Roundtree Jr. I will respectfully read from my notes, and I just want to make it clear that I do not want any pieces or smoke, however you want to phrase it, with Professor Roundtree. At this point, I don't know what type of darkness is in Professor Roundtree. I just know it's there. Mr. Dawkins has fast hands because he did let a few combos go off, a few 3 pieces with the drink. Khalil showed a bunch of patience and restraint, and to be fair, he was also clipping him with that left hand very early on. This, full disclosure, this did not go beyond the first round. When I watched it, I was like, man, this is really just the first round. For some reason, the fight felt longer than it was to me. But I think it's because of what I've seen Professor Roundtree do in the past. I was just like, man, this fight's going for a long time, ain't it? With that being said, some point, Dawkins is on his back foot. Khalil clips him mid-combination, I want to say, with a straight left. And you have to understand, too, Dawkins has a height advantage. And with rehydration, I would imagine that he's also got definitely way more of a weight advantage over His Royal Highness Khalil Roundtree Jr. The thing to note, though, is not just the fact that Khalil instantly got a knockout off of this straight left hand, but he also moved Dawkins backwards. It was pretty insane to see.
Dawkins having moving down from heavyweight, by the way.
Right. Yeah. And with if he's a natural heavyweight, let's say he rehydrates after making weight, he's not gonna be a 205er. With that being said, I thought Khalil Roundtree Jr. Esquire showed remarkable restraint after launching that left hand. Because if you look at the tape, he hits the left, sees Dawkins fade from this plane of life, takes a pause, and then he's like, oh, wait, I got to finish the job, because he sees that the referee, who, to be fair, is completely in his right mind, and I can't say that any of us would act different, didn't step in right away, because he is also familiar with Professor His Royal Highness Khalil Roundtree Jr.'s work at this point. Then Khalil Roundtree proceeds to throw some hammer fists, throws a hook that spins out or Chris Dawkins on the ground. What the fuck? Then proceeds to throw some hammer fists, and that is when Herbasol Deansworth proceeds to step in and put his life at risk.
Chris Dawkins off the ground.
Yeah. In Herb Dean's defense, I can't say that I would have been eager to step in between Khalil Roundtree and whatever he's seeing at that moment in time.
His demons.
I'll pass the mic over to Matt.
Hey, look. Khalil Roundtree Jr. is scary. This is a scary guy to see when he gets busy. When this guy does his job, he does it well. I get he even said, like, he's not looking for those first round finishes, but if they happen, they happen. So I thought it was beautiful, straight left hand. Ultimately sat him down after. He basically just walked to him and just shot it right down the middle. And he had already kind of hurt him a little bit, but when he dropped him with that left hand and to throw a scooping hook that flips this guy over on his back like a fucking turtle. Like, I don't know. You just gonna have to show me something else at this point. I'm gonna pass it to Bryce.
Look, what y'all want me to say, man? This motherfucker knocked the fuck out of. I honestly, if I'm being real with you, somebody don't like Dawkins because he said, I'm leaving heavyweight because I'm getting knocked out too much, and then they just give him Khalil.
That's fair. That's a fair
smacking the shit out of his fucking front hand. His front hand probably up. And then he just catch one straight to the face and just said hit the la land. And not to mention the hook. That hook to the ground, Matt said it before. I ain't never seen a motherfucker like get moved. Like he scooped it. Khalil scooped it. And then just put it in Dawkins' face. I was stunned. I was shocked.
So was Dawkins.
Dawkins.
You weren't the only one.
Aware. Dawkins wasn't aware. He got mauled. He was just trying to figure out what happened and what was doing it.
He's trying to figure out who he is.
He's trying to figure out who he is.
He was trying to figure out why is Gamora.
Yeah, man. It was that I don't know what Roundtree said, but somebody need to talk to him. Somebody need to hug him. He needs a hug.
That might be too dangerous.
Somebody got to do it. Somebody got to sacrifice themselves because he gonna take somebody out, bruh. He got that. It's that mustache, fam. If you got that mustache,
0 games.
You 0 games. You just here to cause a ruckus. Ruckus Roundtree. That's what I'm gonna call it. Respectfully, of course.
Ruckus Roundtree. Okay.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Y'all want to get into the next one?
Mean Hakeem and Cub.
Do you think Khalil sleeps or does he just
he waits?
He waits. He waits in a cave like a Kuma. He comes out when he smells strength, and then gets disappointed later after he snubs him out.
So he's full-fledged Akuma.
He's full-fledged Akuma, yes.
Look, all I know is I'm pretty sure I saw the Hanma demon back when he had Dawkins up against the fence. That's all I'm gonna say. But yes, let's go over to Swanson versus the Wodu.
Yeah. I say, you know, Cub said it himself, like in the post fight interview, how, you know, he's getting older now and, you know, it's hard to keep up, but at least he's trying to have some fun in there. And that's what it looked like for the most part. We were actually talking about this fight in the group chat. Cub won by decision, unanimous decision, and I think we all can agree that that's pretty wild. Because Cub definitely got outstruck. I'm looking at the stats now. Total strikes, Cub Swanson had 107 out of 195. Hakeem Dawodu had 129 out of 224. Significant strikes, Cub had 77 out of 156. Hakeem had 95 out of 176. The one thing Cub did have was 1 out of 2 takedowns. Hakeem didn't try to have any takedowns, but shit, Hakeem didn't really need to take him down after all the strikes and shit. Personally.
You know, another stat you forgetting is Hakeem brought 0 kids with him, and Cub brought all 3 of his beautiful children with him.
Here's the thing, though, about that. That should have been a death flag. And it damn near was.
I'm not going to hold you. You're right. You're absolutely right.
You know, I will say, I mean, like, I'm glad Cub kind of won because, yeah, glasses are expensive. I just found that out.
Wow. We're gonna go. But come on, TJ, please. TJ, please.
That's not even trying to be.
Like, it doesn't matter, Bryce. You really was out of pocket for that. We got to get him out of here. You're out of here, Bryce. You're cooked. You're done. It's also wild because everybody on this podcast wear glasses, Bryce. Like, you included. That's what's so crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, get that buddy, bro. Get that buddy. Get that buddy.
It's like he's out of line, but he's right, but he's still out of line. But yeah, my main thing is give me a split decision. I can see arguments for both instances. I can see arguments for Cub having won, especially with the takedowns, because even when it's weird with judging and takedowns sometimes. Sometimes it feels like takedowns were a huge factor, and sometimes it feels like they don't even consider the grappling at all. That being said, I see arguments for Cub winning. I see arguments for Dawodu winning. And if it's that close, why was it a unanimous decision win for Cub? Like, Cub didn't think he won. The commentators didn't think he won. This felt very odd and out of place, unless really they did factor in homie's family being right at ringside or octagon side. That being said, again, for all intents and purposes, this was written as Cub not winning. Personally, that's how I feel. But I'm gonna pass it over to Matt. What do you think, man?
Y'all ain't see his kids.
Oh my god,
they not cute though.
Oh no, he's got adorable kids.
Wonderful man.
He's got adorable kids. No one's disputing that fact.
Then he won. The man won that life.
You won that life.
I'm gonna say this: when I watched it, I gave Cub the first round. I thought he took a little more damage than he needed to. I mean, I won't even necessarily say needed to. I think, just Hakeem's fucking strong, right? So, like, even though Hakeem wasn't able to get anything really clean off on Cub in that first round, not too much. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. He still made him bleed. Like, even if you look at the numbers for that round, like, Cub outstruck him that round, but he was hurt more. And I think the youth and strength played a role as rounds 2 and 3 went, because they even mentioned it in that first round. Like, Cub does kind of, with his style, he slows down a little bit as the rounds go, which, he's only human, I personally felt like the only round I gave Cub Swanson was round 1. And then I felt like it was kind of Excuse me. Felt like it was kind of a close round for the second round, and I gave the third one to Hakeem. Even when I looked at the judges, two of the judges gave Cub the third round. Only one judge gave him the first round, but like on all three of the rounds, like none of the only round two judges agreed on clearly was that, you know what I'm saying, was the last round. It was kind of really mixed up when you look at those cards. I don't know. It's interesting. It was interesting to see overall. I personally, because I've been a Cub fan for a really long time, I kind of like hate this spot that he's in, like this kind of 50-50 on the wins and losses thing. But even just like he's kind of always in this sort of situation where it's like he's kind of like a tighter fight than it needs to be, or things don't go all the way his way. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to describe, but like it's like how he made me feel back in like 2017. Like, you fight, you coming off the Doohu Choi fight, you go 5 rounds with Artem Lobov, and then you got to fight fucking Brian Ortega after that. You know what I'm saying? Or the decision loss that he took against Frankie Edgar. You know what I'm saying? It's like certain shit, like or like the split loss he got on Shane Burgos. So I thought he won that fight, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the game. Live by the gun, die by the gun. Win some, you lose some type shit. So I don't know. I didn't think he won, but none of the three of us are the three judges that make that decision ultimately. But shit, even Cub didn't think he won. So
right,
yeah.
Man, anybody else got any other final thoughts, or y'all want to go into this last
one? Take us into the last one, dude. Speaking of strength versus youth,
man, we have Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. I'm gonna speak real frank. I don't like when guys talk shit before a fight. Don't make no excuses, bro. I don't want to hear nothing about you old and shit after you done got fucked up. I don't want to hear that. Personally, I don't want to hear it. And I think in a world where you deal with, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was damn near like, to a degree, we was watching fucking the Logan movie. It was like a young Wolverine was fighting an older one, because like, at least stylistically, Vicente Luque does kind of fight like a younger Rafael dos Anjos. Like a lot of coming forward, a lot of strikes, but does have grappling if need be. Like he's an action guy, But at any rate, we had Rafael dos Anjos, 5'8", going against Vicente Luque, 5'11", who like he looks way taller than him, at least to me, when they were in there. And this was literally like youth beat him. Rafael dos Anjos was clearly in a lot of positions stronger than Vicente Luque, but like Vicente Luque, even though he's not like the youngest guy in the world, just he had the youth on his side and was able to push. Vicente Luque, 31 years old, Rafael dos Anjos, 38. And you also got to look at the mileage he got on that 38. 5-round fights, championship fights, TKOs and things like that. And, Vicente Luque, something I noticed about him just in doing like, not necessarily my research, but, you just get a little background. He's a streaking kind of fighter. He goes on really long runs before somebody catches him. And, we're starting to see Rafael dos Anjos on that back end. I personally was kind of, I felt like I was ready to see him hang it up when I saw him get stopped by Rafael Fiziev. Now, I know that that's like a higher level dude and shit. And, it's kind of like, but the way he got KO'd and in that 5th round, definitely thought that should have been over. It was cool that he got that win over Brian Barberina back in December. But like, I didn't have a lot of faith in this fight for Rafael dos Anjos leading up to this. And what pretty much led me into that talking shit about Rafael in that scenario was, he was talking shit about BMF titles and stuff like that and was saying he doesn't qualify because he's actually been a world champion before. And it's like, damn. You can't say shit like that and then go in here and get beat up, because y'all call it what y'all want to call it. Vicente Luque beat him up. He ain't just run him over. We've seen worse ass whoopings, but he went in there and got beat up. There was no question in who won that one. I don't give a fuck if Cub kids were sitting there or not. Vicente Luque did not lose that fight, and it was very clear that he didn't. To me, I felt like Vicente Luque kind of had his number on virtually everything other than like strength. Other than just generally, am I stronger than you? I thought Vicente Luque had him beat. He outstruck him in terms of significant strikes and his total strikes. He beat him to the takedowns. I mean, it was everything. You know, I mean, then you also got to think in a fight that went that long, right? Like this, I felt like to me this was like not necessarily a career defining or like not a career defining fight for Vicente Luque, but I felt like this really kind of puts him a little bit more on the map where people got to pay a little more attention to him now. At welterweight, just because of the way that he did it. You know, to see a guy that used to be the world champion get beat in the grappling, get beat in the striking, get beat in the pacing. Like, this is a dude who used to weaponize pace. I mean, I was watching Vicente Luque turn takedowns around. He had Rafael dos Anjos pressed up against that fence. You know what I'm saying? Was burying that forehead in the chin neck area. You know, even when he was the one on the ground and he was taking the ground and pound, he seemed like he was just in control. Rafael dos Anjos he's not the Rafael dos Anjos of old. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hell, Vicente Luque almost caught him in a rear naked choke too. Yeah. Like, you know, there was submission attempts, there was everything. I think it was just like I said, it was like the young Wolverine, the old Wolverine. Like, he just kind of had him beat at every aspect. He was like just a little bit faster than him, just a little bit quicker transitioning on some of those takedowns, just a little bit quicker getting that jab off, getting that right hand off, a little bit quicker to get those leg kicks going. Like, he was just always a second behind Vicente Luque, I felt. But I'll pass it to you, TJ.
I just don't think Dos Anjos is ready for like natural welterweights, because it was clear that the strength differential was there. I think good on Luque for getting the W after a knockout loss to like hands of steel. But yeah, to me, it was just, had this been a lightweight match, I could see Dos Anjos being like he was once before. But the fact that, and this kind of goes back to one of the comments I made earlier on as we were reviewing the main card, but he was not able to improvise and switch it up because apparently their game plan relied on being able to take down Luque, but that wasn't working yet. Every round he was trying the same thing over and over, only to be faced by a younger, stronger version of himself who was countering him at every turn in every aspect of the game. Bryce, what'd you think?
Hunger. That's all I saw was a hungry lion versus a lion that been fed. There was Matt put it best. It was complete and utter defeat on Dos Anjos' part. He tried, but he could not keep up. I literally just had the stats up. It looked like, I remember that Vicente had 8 out of 11 takedowns. Just off of that is insane. Yeah, I mean, you know, he's older. It's gonna happen. It's good that he kind of keeps up to this level, you know, but you know, you just see like the fall off. It is what it is. He ain't getting knocked out. I'll say that. That's always good when it comes to older fighters, at least for me. Here goes the stats. So Vicente Luque had 138 out of 221 total strikes. Dos Anjos had 94 out of 170. Out of significant strikes, Vicente had 72 out of 141. Dos Anjos had 66 out of 136. And of course, takedowns, like I said, Vicente had 8 out of 11. Rafael had 2 out of 7. Yeah, it was just a total takeover on Vicente's part. And you know, this does give him this does put a little spotlight on him, which is interesting because the welterweight division is kind of picking up. So what'll happen next will be very interesting. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
TJ, anybody?
I got nothing else, man.
I got nothing else either.
All right.
But like
Well,
that awkward silence was just very like, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess so. Yeah, it's kind of the way to put it.
Yeah.
Next week though, we will not have any boxing. We got another week break before that because we'll
Well,
have
what
the
we got
return
on
of
the UFC?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, brother. We got UFC 290 motherfucking 2 next week. We got Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. We got Weili Zhang, really like that Zhang, against Amanda Lemos. We got Neil Magny versus Ian Gary. Oh my God. We got Marlon Vera versus
Cheeto.
fucking Pedro Munoz. Somebody gonna get hurt.
I didn't know Cheeto was on that card.
Oh yeah.
Morning, that shit.
Now we've had 2 fights get canceled. Well, we had 1 fight get canceled because Jeff Neal's replacement is Neil Magny, but we did lose Cody Garbrandt versus Mario Bautista.
Oh,
so
because Cody Garbrandt got injured, I think.
Yep, he got injured. However, I think what we will be getting, since it's on the prelims, I think they're gonna move it up. Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares.
Man, I'm not gonna hold you. I thought Chris Weidman like retired.
Yeah, that's fair. But he is still around. We also got on the early prelims, we got Andrea Lee. We also got Gerald Marchard on there as well.
Hey, peep this. Gregory not allowed to frown Rodriguez versus Dennis Chiulin. I probably butchered that name. But Rodriguez is back on the card, so his face must have healed up pretty solid.
Yeah. He must have closed that mouth in between his eyes. This is in between his eyebrows. No, Bryce, the cut was crazy,
bro. That was him versus Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, bro. Like Bryce, the cut between his eyebrows looked like a mouth opening. Like it was right on the like right where the bridge of your nose meets like your brow. It was right
and
there.
Peep this, Bryce. He won that fight.
Hey, I mean, shouts out him, fam. You know, I know one thing. I know they're gonna be aiming for that same spot because you could probably cut that open real easy now. Scar tissue.
Also, I'm gonna say this: is it me or does Gregory Rodriguez low-key look like a Brazilian Obama?
That's exactly what he looks like.
That is hilarious.
That is 1,000% what he looks like. I'm not arguing it at all. That's yes.
Brazilian Obama.
That's what he looked like, though. Well, with that, guys, we will see you guys next week. We will only be covering on Combat UFC 292. You can follow me at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC. Wherever you like to get your social media. TJ.
Y'all can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS4_SKATE. Bryce.
You can find me on Instagram at Ache_Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA, baby. Where can they find us?
You can find us at Now Mind You Podcast, wherever you like to get your podcast and wherever you like to get your social media. We are in all places. If you guys didn't get a chance to check it out, if you're into that, check out the manga section. It was also this episode for this week. If not, we will see you guys next week to talk about UFC 292. Peace out.
Peace.